DestinationMarc.
Hey guys, how's it going? Marcelo here. As you know, there are dozens of video game films. Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Tekken, Doom, Tomb Raider, the list goes on. Now ask anyone about the earlier video game film adaptations of years past, and they'll likely tell you they haven't been so great. But the question I want to pose is, of course, can video game films be done right? The scene has changed a lot since I last covered this topic, so I'm going to be including some very recent and important movies. What got me started on this topic was the announcement of a live-action Mega Man movie, the product of a partnership between Churnin Entertainment and 20th Century Fox. Since then, the project's been picked up by Netflix and is supposedly still in the works, but that's the thing, it's going to be live action. Mega Man did get a new CGI show a few years back, but that begs the question. Since CGI is the current animation style for kids' films, should video game movies aimed at a younger audience follow suit? Remember, most if not all video game movies back then were done in live action, and that kind of medium didn't really do them justice. It seems newer adaptations today are indeed taking advantage of this. The Angry Birds, Dragon Quest, Monster Hunter, and Ratchet & Clank movies all resemble the source material very closely, and I'm actually going to circle back around to Ratchet in just a minute. Now there are two big aspects I want to talk about that can help make video game movies the best they can be: creator involvement and immersion. Let's dive into the first point. It just makes sense to me that the original companies who created the game franchise that's getting turned into a movie would have some sort of say or even helping hand on how the film adaptation will turn out. Comparing the two Mario movies, the '93 film didn't include much of Nintendo's guiding hand and as a result had next to nothing to do with the source material. But 30 years and tons of games later, not only is there so much more to pull from for Illumination's 2023 film, but Nintendo stepped in to help with the direction and look for this one, and the trailers and marketing clearly show that teamwork. Then you've got the Ratchet & Clank movie, where Insomniac contributed with character development, screenplay, and animation assets, plus TJ Fixman, a writer for some of the games, was brought in to write for the film. Now to me, as of the time this video comes out, I feel the Ratchet movie is one of, if not the best video game movie adaptations. I know it bombed at the box office, I know fans think it's too bland or by the numbers, and I know it was a weird decision to split the story across both the game and a movie, but in terms of getting as much assistance from the original creators and nailing the feel, I think this movie hit the bullseye, because haven't these things been the issue with video game movies? Sure, the Ratchet movie isn't perfect, of course it isn't, but it looks just like the games, it sounds just like the games. The characters, despite becoming a bit flanderized in the games at this point, don't feel far removed from how they are in the games. Shouldn't these be the makings of a great video game movie? The fact that most giant issues people have with adaptations were squashed with this one? Why the Ratchet film didn't sit well with critics and fans alike will always baffle me, but in my personal opinion, I think until we see Illumination's Mario film, which I'll get to in a bit, Ratchet & Clank still comes out on top for me as a pretty dang faithful adaptation. Now the second point, immersion, is a little more complicated. There's one element from games that you can't replicate in movies, and that's the experience. And what I mean by that is the direct interaction between the player and the game. Games allow you to control and essentially be the characters you see on screen. Sure, cutscenes can feel very cinematic, most games nowadays bank on that, but it's up to you to get everyone from point A to point B and so forth. A video game movie is kinda like one giant cutscene, so all you're doing in a theater is just watching them go from point A to B on their own. Everything's already scripted out, so the hard part at that point is getting both fans and the general audience alike invested in what's going on and making sure it all makes sense. There is a workaround, I believe, for video game movies to be able to mimic a video game-like experience, though, and that would be by replicating a famous scene from the games. This is where Uncharted comes in. Before we got the theatrical Tom Holland movie, there was the Nathan Fillion fan film, and that felt very much like something from the games. Especially this moment where Drake throws himself out a window, and we get this sick camera pan behind him. The widescreen bars disappear as if we just come out of a cutscene, the camera's perfectly behind it as if we were controlling him, the zoom-ins when he shoots the guys are pretty accurate. You feel a connection and have a direct understanding that this is pretty much what the games feel like. And as for the Tom Holland movie, you've got a nice recreation of the classic Uncharted 3 plane scene, which was really cool to see translated over in movie form. But the other thing both films got right was the pacing and beats of an Uncharted game. Break into places for documents or items, beat up and shoot some bad guys, solve puzzles, parkour around and have a rooftop chase, bicker with Sully. I'd say both capture the feel of the games very nicely while still being their own distinct things. It's important to throw the audience these bones in an adaptation. Recreate scenes, make a little reference here or there, but most importantly, try to follow how the games flow and feel. And that's where I have to bring up the Sonic movies. I watched these two specifically for this video, and these two films were exactly what I thought of them when they first came out. I don't think they're good. The first one is just an Alvin, Smurfs, Hop kind of movie but with Sonic, and the sequel is more of a superhero story but with Sonic. Neither, though, in my opinion, get anywhere close to the feel of the games, and just try so desperately to make kids laugh with pop culture references and Jim Carrey being incredibly unfunny. These are just a mess. And I guess people feel what makes these films great are the actual Sonic references, whether it's the adventure pose or the Green Hills theme cropping up every so often. But to me, I don't think the films deserve that praise for honoring the source material when you have to sit through so many cliches, annoying pop culture references, actors not being funny, and lengthy unnecessary scenes that have absolutely nothing to do with Sonic. How anyone can say these films broke the video game movie curse is beyond me, because I'm sorry, but I can't agree with that. By following the source material as closely and accurately as possible, and mimicking moments and making references where it's deemed fit, that immersion barrier can be brought at least a bit closer to fans of the games who will pick up on every little detail, and the general audience who might not get everything, but will understand what's going on and still have a fun time following along. Oh, and point number 3, find a medium that fits the adaptation best. If the game you're adapting is a cartoony platformer, make it a fully animated kids film. Live-action CGI doesn't always work and is pretty dated in its own right. If it's a more realistic shooter or action game, keep it live-action, but try to stick as close to the storyline and feel as possible. The Doom movie definitely suffered from this, with a confusing plot and barely any of the iconic demons or even the heavy metal music. Going back to live-action CGI, and to Sonic, I was actually hyped for and really liked the 2013 fan film from Blue Core Studios. Taking inspiration from the comics and trying to create a more believable live-action animated world that fits more in line with the source material was an awesome decision. And going back to Illumination's Mario movie, have you seen the trailers? The posters, the marketing stunts, the look and feel in general? I know people still don't sit right with Chris Pratt as Mario, but even that argument barely holds any water. Remember these guys? Even though I think the Ratchet movie is the best video game movie adaptation we have right now, I think the new Mario movie will end up taking that spot. And just like how he saved the video game market back in '85, the plumber just may be the one to truly break the video game movie curse. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more Marc Throwbacks or videos on Crash and Spyro, be sure to do the thing, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, I'm Mark, and take care.